Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See the shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Game On here. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. It is November the 17th. And the lunacy just continues over and over and over again. Now, I was sent an interesting link. My internet was down all day yesterday and last night, so I didn't get to take a look at too much, but I was sent a link to do with France, and took a quick boo at it. And, how come history repeats itself, or history does repeat itself? And, okay, but that's not by accident, is it? Things don't repeat by accident. While the Earth runs on a natural cycle, history runs on a constructed cycle, if you will. It's the same cycle that we've seen over and over and over again, and the question has to be, why is that? Why do things keep repeating themselves? Well, pretty simple. I guess the simple answer is because we, you and I, allow it. Because the same people that have controlled history through the ages still control the history. They control the markets. They control business. They control your education. They control your health. They control your food, more now so than ever. And they control the history. They control the depressions and the wars. History repeats itself because we allow it to. Because we allow these same nutcases to be in control of the world. And, I guess we're the ants and they're the grasshoppers, but at some point you would think that the ants, I guess that would be us, the commoners, would wise up at some point as to what's going on. Now, in the past, it was much easier for them to run their propaganda. because the information wasn't really readily available. Well, today the information is freaking everywhere, but you really got to go back to understand what's going on today. You really, truly do. And so, I find it absolutely amazing, when I go back and research way, way, way back, you come to the conclusion that all roads lead to Rome. You also come to the conclusion that all of these kings and queens and that are all basically interrelated to one another. And as far as England's concerned, the King of England was the King of France. And they would jump back and forth if something was going on in France. They'd go over in France and have a war, or if something was going bad in France, they'd hightail it out of there and go back to England or Britain. But these guys are they're all interrelated, I mean, the English royal family is German, for crying out loud. What's that all about? The Anglican Church is the Catholic Church. The Church of England, the Anglican Church, I think it is a Catholic Church disguised as a Christian church. And the Vatican and the popes are deceiving people into believing they're Christians. Nothing could be further from the truth, because if they were, and they followed the word, and the word is do unto others, you would have them do unto you, we wouldn't have all this strife in the world, would we? But I'm thinking, and I mean, they say everything. They write everything down. They're saying, well, we told you exactly what we're up to, and you let us do it. So what's your problem? And that is the problem. We allow them to do what they're doing, even though they told us what they're doing, told us what they're going to do, and we don't do anything about it. We don't stand up. And so if we don't stand up, then, silence is consent, period. They write it down, tell you what they're doing. We don't say anything about it. We don't do anything about it. So obviously we've consented to it. We've consented to, all the wars and the bombings, and now it's really getting, it's always been pathetic, right? I mean, you go to China, they kill like 40 million of their own people. You go to Russia, I think it was 60 million people. You look at the present wars, or the just recent wars, and they figure they killed 1 million plus in Iraq, and Afghanistan has been tore up forever, and Africa, and all these other Middle Eastern countries and that, freaking mess. Now, the rulers of the world, so to speak, are saying that they're all Christian. And it says a couple of things. Let no man deceive you. Well, we've been mightily deceived. And the other is, I really like that. Do unto others you would like them to do unto you. So they're bombing the snot out of us, mentally and physically. And so they're saying, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. Well, they've been doing unto others, that would be us, forever. And they're inviting us to do unto them. And it's time. It's time. I'm not a violent guy, but there's so many more of us than there are of them. We just need to stop consenting with our silence. And my attitude is that we just, make some posters, double, capital N, capital O, a bunch of exclamation marks. Maybe even want to stick a middle finger up at the end of it as the final exclamation mark. We're saying no and we mean it. And don't make us get any angrier than we already are, because then it's going to get nasty. And we don't want to get nasty. So, back down. So anyways, Duck has put this in the chat, And for any of you people who are listening that are not in the chat, I invite you to the chat. I know a lot of people don't like internet show chats because too often it's got nothing to do with the show. But I'm pleased to say that the people that hang out at the chat at UCY are people that get it, and for the most part anyways. And I appreciate the chat here. It's the only chat I've ever been, actually had up when I'm doing the show. A lot of times I don't have it up because I'm over reading a story somewhere, and I can't do both at once. But if you're listening out there and from wherever, jump into the chat. I mean, all you got to do is type in ucy.tv, it'll bring you to the main page, and then everything's right in front of your face. Hit chat and join in. Join the party. And you may have something extremely relevant to put into the chat, and that I would always appreciate. So anyways, yeah, Doug called me up there, and after we were done talking about who can hit a nail faster and harder than the other guy, which someday we'll get together. But I'm 136 now, according to Doug. So, and he's just a pup. So I don't know. He'll have to give me a first swing or something, I suppose. But he did just send me an interesting link from Sovereign Man and about France's answer to terrorism. And I greatly appreciate that because like I said, everything is built on templates. They just pull whatever template they need off at the time being. So I haven't had time to really delve into it too much, but I did go to Wikipedia, and I'm going to go there in a bit to go through some of this stuff. The information on the site that he put in the chat is it's a very, very fast overview. But I brought up a page here called Paris News. It's supposed to be all the latest news of Paris. And I'm not bringing this up in particular for the false flag that went down there. Right? But it's got some interesting headlines on it. France requests military support from EU allies. France has made an unprecedented demand for military and other aid from its EU partners in the wake of the terror attacks in Paris. The French government invoked a never-before used EU. I'll have to open this one up and see what it continues as. But there's some interesting stories in here. Let me just run through this a little wee bit. I want to see. The French government invoked a never-before-used EU mutual assistance clause that requires all of the bloc's 28 members to provide aid and assistance to a partner country that is the victim of armed aggression on its territory. In announcing the appeal at the EU defense ministers' meeting in Brussels on November 17th, French Defense Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian said EU partners could help either by taking part in France's operations in Syria or Iraq, or by easing the load, or providing support for France in other operations. Every country said, "I am going to assist. I am going to help." So says the minister. Greek defense minister, I can't pronounce this, Kaminos, told reporters that the Paris attacks were monumental for the bloc. Okay, now Greece has been pounded into the ground by austerity measures and whatnot, why? This is what I'm saying. They're all regrouping here. All of these things that are going on are all coming from the same place. Anyways, this is the September 11 for Europe, he said, referring to September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the Paris attacks on a concert hall, a stadium, bars, and restaurants that killed at least 129 and wounded 350. French president has described the attacks as an act of war, and Paris has stepped up airstrikes on Islamic State militants in Syria. Well, what the hell are they bringing out of Syria and everywhere else, these migrants, other than Islamic State terrorists, and flooding them into Europe? Now, they're bombing them while they're encouraging them to flood north. This has been a long setup, okay? This just didn't happen. This has been a long time in the making, and we didn't notice it. Anyways, on the 16th, Holland, the French president, vowed to forge a united coalition capable of defeating the Islamic militants at home and abroad. Well, we're letting, I think Canada's, good old Canada, there's, even though this Paris thing is an act of war, we're going to still move ahead, last time I saw anyways, with immediately bringing in 25,000, who the media and the government would like you to believe that they can vet, investigate, and make sure they're not letting any militants in, that they have the capacity to screen 25,000 people in a little less than 6 weeks. But, says Canada, the UN's going to help us out with that. Well, the UN was formed after World War II, like Israel, two extremely evil outfits that were set up for a purpose, and that is to take down the West. So let me get this straight. The United Nations, who wants to be the world government body, is going to vet these so-called migrants and tell us which ones are safe. I mean, how stupid are we? Apparently quite stupid. So anyways, everybody's jumping in on this, you know. Let's see here. Called on the international community led by the United States and Russia. Okay, now this is interesting because before World War II and during World War II, Russia and the United States were allies. And after World War II, immediately after World War II, Russia fell on the bad side of this newly formed United Nations, and and said they weren't going to leave Iran. Well, they said they'd leave, but when they felt like it, and that caused great concern across the world. And Truman said that there was negotiations. The Iranian president was at the UN, so we're getting all this hype right after World War II of the importance of the United Nations in the quest for world peace. And we've heard that every year since. But that little thing where the Allies all of a sudden weren't allies anymore after the Second World War, and I mean immediately after the Second World War, which caused the Cold War, which was actually the beginning of the Third World War, continues on. And now we have Russia and United States allies again, beating up on Syria. Now, if you look on a map, and I don't know exactly what the size of, well, let me just look that up. What the, let's see, Syria. Let's see here. Syria, 185,000 square kilometers, or for you, still running on imperial measurement, 71,500 square miles. Now, it says here that ISIS controls 35,000 square miles in Iraq and Syria. That's from MSNBC. So Syria is a extremely tiny little place. Now, let's see. What's the population of Syria? See, they just keep punching this stuff out on the news to us. Let's see here. Population. Let's see. How big, how many people oh, look at that. The Pope made a message, Christmas message to Iraq and Syria. Suffering. Interesting. Syria population. Why can't I find the population of Syria? They all left, I guess. Is that why? Maybe there's no Syrians left in Syria. Vatican Pope Syria. I want to know what the frickin' population of Syria is. I want to know now. Okay, so the population of Syria is says here 22 million, and it says here that Syria, a Middle Eastern country, as a population is difficult to determine due to the said instability. Approximately 5,000 flee Syria every day. Okay, so that's 10 days, that's 50,000. 20 days, that's 100,000. Okay, and they're heading out of town. They're heading to your town. Because these people, you know, the people of Syria not just as soon live in Syria if they could live there in peace. Of course they would. But that's not going to be allowed. You know, just like the African nations have never been able to develop their own resources because the IMF, the World Bank, and the corporations got their thumb on them. And they're not letting them move forward, but we get all this noise from the UN about how good all these people are. Anyways, I'm going to back us up, back to the Paris News here again, and just run through this. I got to be faster because I want to get to this thing that Chris sent me, or Duck sent me. France deploys flagship aircraft carrier to intensify airstrikes against Islamic State. China boosts anti-terror measures in wake of Paris attacks. President of France wants to extend state of emergency. Refugees should not be turned into scapegoats following Paris attacks, says the UN agency. Well, let's just, here's another one. In the shadow of Beirut and Paris terror attacks, the UN Security Council discusses root causes of the conflict. UN expert denounces Paris attacks as crime against humanity, crime against culture. UN calls on countries to protect health and from impacts of climate change. Now, all of these attacks are predetermined to move the agenda forward, and that's the globalist agenda coming out of what was created in World War II, the UN and Israel's agendas, which are the agendas of the crazy people, if you will. And all of these attacks are all deceptions, smoke and mirrors. The worst part is that they sacrifice so many innocent lives in the process to get their final empire in place. None of this is any more real. I mean, people who got killed is real. But the reasons for these attacks is completely constructed, and completely the explanations for these things are total and complete crap. just like the UN calls on countries to protect health from impacts of climate change. Okay? Same garbage. Okay? Anybody that believes anything that comes out of the United Nations had better watch themselves. I've heard for years, oh, the United Nations, what are you talking about the United Nations? They got no teeth. They are the teeth, because the guys that created the UN in Israel are the guys that have been running everybody's life for basically ever. So to say the UN has no teeth, that's people saying, don't look here, look over there, when you should be looking over there. Okay? That's all it is. And that's all it's ever been. And we gotta wise up to that ASAP. Let's see. Now remember this, folks. The United Nations was set up to make sure that all of these countries, which are basically all of the countries on the planet, are part of the United Nations. Remember, when they fired up the United Nations, the idea was world peace. So that if anybody started to scrap somewhere, they could come in and back down the other guys. Well, you're telling me, I mean, Syria, as far as I know, is a member of the United Nations. Iraq is a member. Iran is a member. Everybody's a member. I don't think North Korea is, although the United Nations is in Korea all the time, but Korea is being used for a purpose. You'll find that out later. We'll talk about that in the future, why North Korea is what it is. There's a very specific purpose that North Korea has been set up the way it was. You're basically looking in North Korea as really the future for the world. Lockdown. Little resources to the people. Everything's restricted. It's called sustainable development. You see, when they fly the satellite over at night and they show you the world all lit up and they show you North Korea, it is dark. That's called sustainable development, boys and girls. Okay? That's the plan. Anybody gets out of line in North Korea, they get whacked. North Korea, if you go and you look at the videos, what is it, Phnom Penh or whatever the main city there is, you go look at some videos, okay? You don't see private vehicles. What does Rockefeller and that want? They want no private vehicles. What does the UN want? They want no private vehicles. They want no private property, okay? And if you go to North Korea and look at some of the videos, the only vehicles you really see on the road there are they have a subway, they have a transit system, the streets are perfectly clear, everybody's walking or riding a bicycle, and the only real vehicles you see on the street are the transit vehicles and the government work vehicles, okay, to keep the electricity running when it runs, and this and that and the other thing. So that's basically sustainable development that they would like to implement around the world. And so pay attention to that as well. Anyways, the United Nations Refugee Agency today expresses shock and horror at the attacks in Paris and killing of so many innocent people, but warned against the scapegoating of refugees in the wake of the deadly attacks. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Antonio Guterres, conveyed his solidarity with the government and the people of France as he did with the government of Lebanon following the recent Beirut attacks. We are deeply disturbed by language that demonizes refugees as a group. Hell, we've been working our tails off to create the refugees. So we don't like anybody demonizing refugees because we've killed a lot of people and destroyed a lot of countries in order to create enough refugees to overrun the West. No, that's not what he said. That's what I said. He doesn't like people demonizing refugees. This is dangerous as it will contribute to xenophobia and fear. The security problems Europe faces are highly complex. Refugees should not be turned into scapegoats and must not become the secondary victims of these most tragic events, said Melissa Fleming, UNHCR spokesman at today's Paris, the nation's press briefing in Geneva. Ms. Fleming cautioned against the reactions of some member states, and remember, all states are member states, all countries are member states of the United States, or not the United States, but the United Nations, and all signed agreements and treaties agreeing to do whatever they can to move the United Nations agenda forward. Well, the agenda of the United Nations is to become a world governance, and also the end of nation states. That would be your state. That would be your so-called country. To end the programs being put in place, backtracking from commitments made to manage the refugee crisis, such as relocation, or proposing the erection of more barriers. Okay, so what's happened here is this is all set up. And these migrants were created by the same guys that created the United Nations and Israel. And the game is to overrun the West, destroy the West. It's called genocide. And the genocide's been going on for a very, very long time. Okay, the public school system is involved in genocide, destroying the society. The multiculturalism is absolute genocide. And it's the destruction of a nation. And the nation is the people. Okay? So they're going to overrun you. Or they think they're going to overrun you. That ain't going to happen. Let's see. At the same time, she also expressed concern by the yet unconfirmed news that one of Paris attackers may have entered Europe as part of the current influx of refugees and migrants. Have you ever heard anything more ridiculous than this? At the same time, she expressed concern by the yet unconfirmed news that one of the Paris attackers may have entered Europe as part of the current influx of refugees and migrants. But we strongly believe in the importance of preserving the integrity of the asylum system. Asylum and terrorism are not compatible with each other, said Ms. Fleming, adding that the 1951 Refugee Convention excludes from its scope people who have committed serious crimes. Now, this is the same United Nations that our new Prime Minister, the son of our old Prime Minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau, says that he has faith that the UN can screen any possible terrorists out of these 25,000 migrants headed for Canada in little less than 6 weeks. No, a lot less than 6 weeks, because then once the United Nations has screened them, then Canada's supposed to screen them as a double check. Now, that is absolutely ludicrous for anybody in the media to put forward the idea that the UN and or the Canadian government could possibly screen 25,000 people in less than 6 weeks to make sure there are no terrorists in that group. Don't buy the newspapers, people. Ms. Fleming went on to emphasize that the overwhelming majority of those coming to Europe are fleeing persecution or life-threatening effects or conflict and are unable to reach safety in Europe by alternative avenues. We at the UN and those who created the UN have made people's lives miserable throughout the world, especially the smaller countries who can't defend themselves. And we have decimated their populations. We have decimated their economies. We have destroyed their lives, and we have encouraged them through the convention, the Refugee Convention, to move to other countries who have welcome arms for you now. And these are basically all the same countries that are telling you that global warming is real. Okay? This isn't even good theater. I mean, if you went to a movie and they were presenting all this stuff, surely to God you'd look through the plot and say, this is retarded. And that's exactly what this is. It's theater. And it ain't even good theater. Okay, I think I got a duck in here. But I want to 35 here. I'm just going to run through this. He can come in here, but I'm going to finish this first, if it is duck. Quack, quack. Quack,
Hey.
quack, quack,
Hello?
quack. Is there a duck?
Yeah,
Can you turn down your radio, duck?
I did.
Quack, quack, quack. You hear the
Am
duck?
I live?
Well, I hope so. Are you in
Okay.
Syria? I thought I sent you to Syria today to get the lowdown on this story.
Well, then I was
Are you-
bringing
are
you
you
back
in
some
Syria now,
information.
or
I
you-
thought I'd just
Are you back in
Good.
France or are you still in Syria?
no. I took the underground railroad back to Canada.
Are you?
Yeah, undersea pipeline. I just swam through it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not gonna get too deep into this thing tonight. You sent me the link, and I had a
know.
lot of time. I got a couple other calls after I was talking to you, so I buzzed around at it as fast as I can. And I think what I'm going to have to do, we can do a quick overview of it, but as I'm looking through this, it goes pretty damn deep.
It does.
So,
I know.
Yeah,
It's something that you'd have to do a lot more research. Like
Well,
I say, I don't. On the surface, it's interesting. But
I'm
there's
curious.
there's
I'm curious because I'm curious. Now you're a duck, right? And,
Yeah. Well, I shed water, but
do you migrate?
oil sticks to my wings.
Like, do you migrate every winter?
Wish I could.
I just want to know if you're a Canadian duck, a Lambic duck, a French duck. You're a migrant, and now because you're a migrant, because all ducks migrate, or most of them do. Have you been contacted by the UN to be vetted? So if you migrate out of Canada this winter, will you be vetted to move back in? I know you're not a terrorist, but they don't know that. So are you gonna go through the screening process?
Yeah. Well, my screening process is the cops will show up and just arrest me, throw my ass in jail, my butt in jail.
Not if you claim yourself as a migrant refugee, because if you are a migrant refugee, they will welcome you with open arms, and they will give you free housing and free food and free medical and free education.
Well, I can get that too. I gotta smash a window or something, and then they'll give me free housing.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I know.
I
know.
I can be in a warm place with
Yeah,
a
you
bunch
can.
of
Yeah,
fellow
But,
friends.
yeah, but if you just go through the screening process from the UN and Canada, then you'll not be behind bars. I mean, you're welcome with open arms, and you're given free ride over everything. And
So they're free to live on the farm.
exactly, freedom to live on the farm. Okay, I'm just going to finish. I got 2 paragraphs left in this, and we'll get back to it. We'll go back.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll go back.
No, I don't want to interrupt. I was just calling in.
No,
Go ahead.
it's good. We want to touch on that link that you put in there for sure before this show's over, and then I'm going to try and do some serious research on it before Thursday, and see what we can dig out of this, because it is definitely a template, and I really thank you for sending me that link. Anyways, where am I here? She also stressed that many people are fleeing from extremism and terrorism from the very people associated with the Paris attacks. Now, see, that's a really good statement on her part, okay? I'm going to do this again. She also stressed that many people are fleeing from extremism and terrorism from the very people associated with the Paris attacks. Well, who the hell's associated with the Paris attacks? The guys that set it up. Okay? And who set it up? The boys from the UN. And probably Israel's got their finger on the button here too, because it's all about final empire. Additionally, so the spokesman also added that precarious conditions in countries of first asylum have also forced many to leave for Europe. And we see what's been going on in Europe, and now they're going to head them over this direction. Additionally, Ms. Fleming recalled that member states, that's all countries, were urged to immediately put in place an effective reception, registration, and screening mechanism immediately upon arrival of refugees and migrants, adding that eligible asylum seekers must be provided protection and relocation services under the European Union EU plan. Relocation and other agreed measures can improve the management and stabilization of current flows of people. These measures include security measures and the proper registration of all those on the move, says Ms. Fleming. Further, she said, highlighted the urgent need to significantly expand legal avenues, notably resettlement and humanitarian admission programs as alternatives to the dangerous and irregular journeys while cracking down on smugglers. Lastly, Ms. Fleming reiterated that the security of societies and ensuring the integrity of asylum in Europe are objectives that are not incompatible, and stressed that they are central to maintaining European core values and protecting the right to seek asylum. What a load of crap. And over here, and it happened in Europe too, because they never got the real news. They didn't understand what was going on. And, all of this stuff tugs at the heartstrings. Nobody wants to see anybody hurt. Nobody, well, except the guys that are hurting them. But they tug at the heartstrings and the emotions. And they put pictures up, like that kid that was drowned or whatever was on the beach there. They push this stuff, this propaganda. And, we're people, we're all one. No, we're not. We're all individual nations, because nations are individual groups of people. Syrian people are a nation. Canadian people are a nation. Americans are a nation. Those people just want to live in their homeland. They don't want to move. They're being shoved out of their own countries, and they're being, but then the people in the other countries being bombarded by this nonsense in the media. Oh, shouldn't we sponsor some migrants or some refugees? And then the churches get into it, and all the churches, I don't care what church you go to, it be a Baptist or a Pentecostal or United Church, they're all Roman Catholic churches. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I got that all researched to the ass, and they're all Roman Catholic churches. And they're Roman Catholic churches. All you got to do is look at the United Church of Canada, and what have we got there? They were one of the first churches to push gay marriages. They have as one of their super members of the United Church of Canada, Maurice Strong. Well, Maurice Strong is a member of the Baha'i faith, or the Baha'i faith. Okay, so what's he doing as a prominent member of the United Church? David Suzuki's an atheist. They play him up all the time. Al Gore wants all Christians dead, because Christianity apparently killed the last vestiges of the pagans. And this is United Church. And this is the message straight out of the Roman Catholic Church, right out of the Vatican. So to think that the so-called, Protestant churches are Protestant churches, they're all corporate churches, and that means they're all members or member states, I guess, or member churches of the Roman Catholic Church. Same as all of the countries are member states of the United Nations. So what you have is you have these small groups of people from outside your nation telling your so-called elected officials what to do, and your so-called elected officials dance like the little puppets they are to do what Daddy wants, be it the Vatican or the United Nations or Israel. So that's what we got to get our brains wrapped around. Anyways, this here, I don't know if anybody read what Chris put in the chat. France's answer to terrorism, the law of suspects. Now, I don't even remember what the law in the United States is called after 9/11, but they have a terrorist law. You can't go to the frickin' airport without being treated like a terrorist. But this is very interesting because I want to tie this together, because if you look in 1791 America and 1791 Canada, and there's a 1791 dictionary, I think, all of this stuff is all tied together, okay? So like I said, I'm going to try and do some crunchy research here on, so I know a lot of this stuff, but just to try to tie it together a little tighter. Anyways, on April 5th, 1793, before I read this quickly, I would like everyone to give Chris a round of applause for getting this to me. I really do appreciate this very, very much. Decorated French military commander Charles Dumouriez, or whatever, caused a sensational panic in Paris when he fled the country and defected to Austria. It had been nearly 4 years since French peasants stormed the Bastille, the event that historians generally regard as the start of the French revolutions. Okay, so we have a terror attack, right? We have a terror attack. Well, obviously it wasn't the government that set it up. It wasn't the Vatican that set it up. It was the peasants. That would be you and I. So who's getting pounded in our countries by surveillance and that? Those who create these false flags and that? No, you, the peasant, or the commoner, or the citizen, however you want to describe yourself, but make no difference, it's a peasant. And hardly a week had gone by since without some major crisis, emergency, or tragedy in France. There were regular violent riots across the country, in Paris, other major cities, and even the rural countryside. Widespread massacres were commonplace. And given that one of the key goals of France's new revolutionary government was to eliminate, are you ready for this, Christianity from the nation. And what have I been saying since I first went on air way long time ago? There's only two things that are going to stop these SOBs. Okay, there's only two things standing in their way, and they're both gone for all intents and purposes. They say they killed God, or God died in the middle of the 19th century, which is exactly when they propagated the idea of evolution. But they say we allow people to continue to hang on to the ghost. Okay, while we're doing our business, let them continue to think that they are in a Christian state. Okay, that keeps them docile while we do our work in the background. The other thing I've always said has to go bye-bye is the Constitution of the United States. Okay, because the people in the United States are heavily armed, and don't give up your guns, folks, are heavily armed. And even though the Constitution of the United States was trashed a long, long, long time ago, they have the same principle there, and let the American people believe in the ghost of the Constitution, and let those going to church, the Protestants and that, believe in the ghost of God, because we killed them both off. Okay?
Well,
it's true, but we could jump in.
Sorry, Ron, but I believe that the Constitution that or the oath of allegiance isn't to what the people think it is.
Of course not.
It's an allegiance to say that you are going to protect the state.
That's right. That's who the allegiance is to.
Yeah, whenever you see a politician pledging allegiance, he's pledging allegiance to the state.
And people get all teary-eyed, right? Oh, look, he's pledging allegiance. Isn't that wonderful? Everybody get your hand over your heart and wave the flag. not realizing what the hell's going on there. And I don't understand how that's possible, but except through constant propaganda. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, do you think the guy pledging allegiance is pledging allegiance to the frickin' peasants? Not a
the
chance.
ones that pay the ones that are, yeah.
So now we have, and given that one of the key goals of France's new revolution, this is from the 1790s, government was to eliminate Christianity from the nations. Civil war began between religious factions broke out as well. Well, what are they importing into the West? Islam, Sharia law. Okay? This is completely opposite to what these nations were supposedly founded on. And what's it going to cause? If we don't nip it in the bud, it's going to cause civil war between religious factions. That's the whole point. To cap things off, France was under constant threat of foreign invasion. Austria and Prussia were not only waging conventional war against France, but both nations had sent highly trained agents to infiltrate French borders to pursue violence and chaos from within. Okay? Pursue violence and chaos from within. Now you go look at all the false flags that have popped up since the towers went down. I mean, that was the false flag that moves everything to a new scale. And we've had nothing but false flags ever since. It doesn't matter if it's, most of it has been described as terrorism. Well, it's state terrorism against the people. It's not people terrorizing the state. It was exhausting. French people were living in perpetual fear, and the wanton death of innocents had become an unfortunate normal part of life. Look around in your own countries now. I mean, even in Canada, for God's sakes, cops are shooting at people that are no threat to anybody, except maybe themselves, being blown away like pieces of garbage. Okay, so the innocence, the fear of wanton death of innocents have become an unfortunately normal part of life. Do you see any similarities of what's going on today, folks? So when it was found that Demouries, a French citizen, had defected to the enemy, people hit their breaking points. Enough was enough, and they cried out to the government to save them. Okay? And that's how it always happens, right? The government listened. This is so brilliant. And I'm reading this slower now because I just buzzed this really fast. This is a really good piece. If you still got that, Chris, can you chuck that back into the chat? People need to go through this slowly, and hopefully by Thursday when we do another show on this, we can expand on this somewhat. Anyways, the very next day, on April the 6th, 1793, the new French government established the Committee on Public Safety. Although it's originally known as the Danton Committee. I'll have to look that up. The committee was given broad emergency powers since it was a time of such crisis, and under the leadership of Maximilien Robespierre, the French people got their protection. He passed the law of suspects, allowing the government to essentially imprison anybody they wanted to for any reason. Does this sound familiar, people? I mean, come on. Does history repeat itself? No, really? It was impossible to tell friend from foe back then. You never knew if someone was a loyalist or a Christian or an Austrian spy or any number of counter-revolutionaries. So people were required to carry special certificates indicating that they were good and dutiful citizens. Read peasant. Those without would be imprisoned and potentially executed. The University of Chicago estimates that nearly 30,000 either died in prison or executed as a result of this law. Then there was the law of maximum, which attempted to stabilize an ongoing financial crisis. Oh, Jesus, where have we heard that before? Financial crisis? My goodness. By fixing the prices of goods and services in the country. Now, that happened. Chris, was that not Pierre Trudeau that gave us the price controls way back in the 70s, wasn't it?
The one or two?
The old man.
Oh, the old guy.
Yeah. We already had that here. The
cocaine cowboy
as well. It
was.
I forget exactly what they called, but it was price control. The law also imposed the death penalty on those who did not follow the rules. They also passed the law of 22, which awarded the committee even more a power to arrest, try, and execute anyone deemed to be suspicious or disloyal. Now, didn't they pass a law, or didn't somebody tell me, or didn't I read something somewhere that the Obama administration had come with this idea that they can kill American citizens? Same game, man. If they finger you.
Do you remember when they first said that, though? Was it Bush? I believe said that they passed this legislation that they could detain and or kill American citizens,
right?
But they would never do it to real American citizens. They would just do it to people that
we deem to be a possible terrorist or
America.
Trying to undermine America. Yeah.
And then now what are they doing? They're shooting people in the freaking street now.
Yeah.
Come on.
History repeats for a reason, folks. The law also prevented anyone accused of a crime from being able to call witnesses or have defense counsel. Now that describes the international tribunals that they're building now, so they can pull you out of whatever your country and haul you somewhere else in front of a tribunal of which you will not have any witnesses on your side, and they will just simply. It's like old Rome, for God's sakes. As you are likely well aware, this period in French history became known as the Reign of Terror. Okay, and it is a reign of terror. Only the terrorists are your own state. You're looking at the wrong place, people. You're looking in the wrong place, and it is your state. Coincidentally, this is where the first modern use of the word terrorist is found, except that it wasn't used to describe the counter-revolutionaries or the rebels or the foreign agents. It turns out that terrorist was originally a term used to describe the government officials who created and executed these oppressive tactics under the guise of keeping people safe from their enemies. Wise people way back in the 1700s. Governments have a dangerous tendency to never let a serious crisis go to waste, and as one of our public officials here in Canada said, I think it was Snoblin in Ontario, said, if we don't have a crisis, we'll just create one. I believe it was Snoblin that said that, who was Minister of Education, I believe. Anyways, the U.S. government spent trillions of taxpayers' dollars to fight a war on terror that made the world less safe and Americans less free, all to protect them from a threat that has a statistical likelihood of 0%. So, it's time, it really is time that the peasants stood up and said, we get it. Now, back in the 1700s, most of the people wouldn't have a clue because they didn't have the information. Today, we have no excuse for not having a clue. And I hear music. And I want to thank you so much, Chris, really,
all right, bud.
for getting this. Anyways, folks, that's the hour. That's like really fast. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you back here on everybody take care.